You never went into Planet Fitness.
No, I think the lunch alarm would go off.
Yeah, they would say, "Oh no, you're not getting in." Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too. Lunch break. So glad you tuned in today. I'm here with my compadre, my partner in crime, with a new show called Muscle Matters.
Yes,
they do matter.
Yes, they do. They matter to me a lot.
I know. Steve's had a long, successful career in powerlifting and bodybuilding and personal training and consulting with clients about nutrition, lifting techniques, and that's kind of what got us in trouble in our lives, was a thing called iron poisoning, wasn't it, Steve?
I remember going to my first personal training classes, my schools, and being told that I was a caveman because of the way I'd lifted. It was amazing.
You know, I think that's something that is, you're out there and you're watching Lunch Break. We're going to be dropping a new show, and it's called Muscle Matters. It's going to be Tuesday at noon, but it's going to be something fun. Because, Steve, one of the things we talk about here is how Christ has interwoven this. And I remember that one day I was talking to Mike Harvey, our producer, executive producer, said, "Hey, I'd like to do a show called Muscle Matters." And he goes, "What would you do?" I go, "Well, there's only one guy that I'd want to do it with, and it was you." And I remember that I think I text you, didn't I?
I had told you that God had put on my heart to ask you.
Yeah. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with this?
Yes.
And this is something that if you're out there, I mean, you know, sometimes people think that you have all this experience with the mic. Steve does an amazing advertisement of dancing and characterization.
You would never know I was shy.
You would never get that. And I think we talked about that on your lunch break episode.
Yes.
About you being there and being a
DJ.
A DJ,
Yes.
and then a doorman, which would be quasi bouncer, which, you know, the facade was to scare people.
Roadhouse.
I know. So as you're out there, you know, we were just thinking how this happens, and it just happens because you get an idea, maybe God inspires you to, and I do believe that as we bring our show to you guys, and hopefully our lunch break audience would also watch our Muscle Matters. Muscles do matter to you guys.
Yes.
You know, I was just talking to my friend Steve here about how I'm getting older. Clue. I mean, I am. I'm going to be 65 in April, and I do want to live a very impactful older years. I am elderly. I am considered a senior citizen, and those are hard words to swallow until you start realizing
That you get a discount on food?
well, not even that. You're just not a young chick anymore. I mean, it's like somebody will say, "How many times you get this, Steve? How much could you lift?" And I go, "Oh yeah, because there's no way I could come close to it." But I don't even answer that question anymore because it doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense to me because I feel like I'm lying, and I feel like I've got to preface it why I've got to asterisk by those lifts because I was PED enhanced. But I was like, it doesn't matter anymore. Those were the old days, and now I just want to live longer. And
Your goals change.
Oh my God!
Your heroes change. As I got older, I started looking into people like Jack LaLanne. Uh-huh. I completely admired Jack. Like, she had to tell him not to get in the water anymore because he was still trying to swim with boats tied up, shackled.
In those suits that he always wore.
That man was, and the crazy thing.
He was always fit.
If they would have ever made that man, if they would allow that man to wear a tank top,
I know he was.
I would have watched and did every one of his show workouts. But he had the ballerina costume on, and it was rough for me being an inner city kid.
You know, and there again, Steve, as you and I got into this sport, and I don't think, you know, if you're out there, you may not want to power lift. I mean, you may not want to hoist up a lot of weight. You may not want to, you know, go on stage and present your physique. But I think you all want to live a better life.
A healthier life.
There you go. Healthier life. Stand corrected. because as you
The heart is a muscle.
it is,
And if
and you
you-
only get one of those suckers.
And if you don't keep the heart working,
That's-
it's going to, I mean, we're all genetically disposed to have some sort of ailment. It's,
and you and I do, Steve.
yes.
We do.
Yes.
Hey, I had a heart issue, and I have a heart issue, and I'm on beta blockers.
Yeah, heart hospital for three whole days. It was great.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah, and we talk about how I abused my body with some very extreme measures to win some plastic trophies and some metal trophies that aren't even in my possession anymore. And it seems ridiculous when people say, "Hey, weren't you Mr. California?" I was like, I don't think it counts anymore.
No, it does. I mean, great achievements in life. And like I tell people, I said, enjoy the ride.
Yes,
Because
I would say that. If you're out there, don't let us discourage you.
enjoy the ride, because in the sport, and whatever the sport is, you're always looking for the next goal, the next challenge, the next goal. And you can't, like, I never thought wouldn't know what it feels like to have a bar bend across my back when I walk out to squat.
Steve, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did you ever break bar?
I try to
Did it
daily.
ever break on your back? I'm looking at your shirt here, and the bar is bent.
The funny story, so 24 Hour Fitness is where I cut most of my teeth at, the one on White Lane. And they used to hate me because I bent all the bars.
You would rack the plates all the way to the end.
And I remember Charlie, rest
It would
his
go
soul.
like this.
Charlie, rest his soul, bought a Texas bar. And he walks up to me and goes, "Steve, I bought a bar you can't bend."
And you said, "Try me."
I literally looked and went, "Oh, challenge accepted." And I bent the bar before the day was
No way. I love that. Would it basically mean when it got on your back, or would it be the movement coming up?
Yes. Yeah, and it's a lovely feeling. I can't explain.
No, I've had 2 bars break on my back, and it's not because the weight was piled all the way to the end. They were cheap bars, and they were already bent, and so there's a hazard in that. I mean, you've been to real gyms, and you've seen that where there's bars made out of.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about Lord's Gym. I mean,
Yes.
His gym, those are legitimate powerlifting. And even in my greatest of heydays, there's no way I'm bending those bars.
I think I broke one at a YMCA, and I think of course, it looked like an Olympic bar.
I remember one time I got called out by an old schooler. I was feeling myself early 30s, feeling myself walking around kicking dirt up. I was feeling myself. Oh, Lord forgive me. It was cocky. And I just hit 500 for a boatload of reps. And I was just really peacocking. And I left it.
Let somebody else unload it.
Hey, that's somebody else's problem, not
A
mine.
girl that's probably 125
Wasn't
pounds.
thinking about her. I was peacocking. It was great. The whole place was watching
Hey,
me.
look at that.
And remember one of the
That's
old
like
times?
peeing on the tree, right?
Oh, I sure was.
The dog.
I was that little
bad.
bad dog. I was that little bad dog that you couldn't take walking because he had to pee at every 5 steps. Like, hey, you don't have any more pee. Yeah, I do. Watch me. This is like my dog. And so he walks up, he puts his arms around me, and he goes, "Hey, Hercules, that's how the bars bend." And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go take it off, sir.
Well, you gotta love those moments where you do have somebody. You know what I think too is important, and I love the young kids nowadays. I really do, because they need to have an experience. You look at them and you go, enjoy the ride, because it's going to cost you something.
Yes.
Working out costs you time, energy, your mental capacity, a lot of bucks.
A lot of friends.
Yes, a lot of friends. A lot of friends.
A lot of friends. People don't understand when you get dedicated.
And so as you have that behind you, I think you and I have decided to bring the show to you and give you different perspectives.
So you can laugh at the great things we did. I'm great. Let me put those things around.
We talk a lot about what we've done, because there's got to be a reason that you're going to listen to us. And I would say the selling point to this show is this man right here, because what he's done and what he's still doing. Now, my exploits are exactly that. I had genetics, and then I enhanced them through PEDs. A lot of them, blood doping. My story's out there. I have no problem with that. But I rode the ride for money, and I rode the ride for what I thought was fame. And I got to the other side, and I looked over, and there's nothing there.
When I started working for the industry, and I was paid to be a salesperson by big companies, and I got to see firsthand on how talent is mistreated. And I would be walking away with a pocket full of money for being the salesperson, and the talent was getting a pat on the back and a free plane ticket, and that was it. It was like, oh.
It's a different ride for different folks. So we're hoping to bring you guys people who've been there. You know, we talked about some of our guests. I think our first episode is going to be Dr. Kurt Collins.
Oh man, I love that guy.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to ask you a question in a second about your favorite guest, but I think Kurt is one of my favorite because Kurt helped me. Kurt is an expert in stem cells. Help me. I mean, hey,
they work.
Yeah, hey, they work. I mean, I went through the process with PRP, the stem cell. Hey, I can actually squat now. I don't, because it wouldn't be advisable for the rest of me. Now that my knee's fixed, something else is going to give, right? But I can go down in a full squat position because stem cells work. And so we're going to bring a show on stem cells.
Yeah, I mean, the guests, the shows that we've already had lined up are awesome, and you're going to love every one of them. Tom does not give himself enough credit. This man's Rolodex is something to be, and it's an ugly word, but it's a truthful word, envious of. So the guests that he is lining up to bring on this show, I mean, you're talking about Hall of Famers, just different people that are just awesome.
Been there, done that. Doug McNolly.
The man was a winner. He had a gym with celebrities. Oh my goodness, when you hear his story, you're like, whoa.
And you know what I thought was very interesting about that, Steve, is we got to talk to Doug, and then you fast forward Doug's story, and he talked about how he lost it. And always got to mention this, Doug passed away literally 2 days after our show. I think we have some of his last spoken words, you know, and he was a fanatic and an expert on mechanics of the muscles.
His books are very worth reading, very worth reading.
$1 Million Muscle.
Yes.
And so there again, so we're bringing that out there. And as Doug was there, he talked about going into depression after the successful period of his young competitive years and getting taken over by the industry that came in with.
Do you remember your fear when you had to get off everything?
Oh, I know.
It's a fear. It snatches your heart. When I had to clean up, it snatched my heart.
Well, because you aren't looking at the person in the mirror that you've grown up with.
Yes.
You know, that beast is no longer there. The want that guy back is there.
The panic of everything that I stood for is leaving me.
Yep. And everything that was my identity is leaving. And so when Doug talked about that, it was gripping to me, and how he remade himself in another career in mahogany wood, and then that was taken from him. And he came back to the United States, and he recreated himself as a Masters bodybuilding champion, Mr. Universe twice, going for his third show.
It's a true perseverance story.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, you get knocked down 7, stand up 8.
Steve, what we had on would you consider your favorite show story?
You know what? I can't say a favorite because each guest brought a unique situation and idea. I mean, you've got a pastor that broke people's nose for a living.
And got his nose broke too.
Yes. You've got a ninja warrior who got blackballed for his beliefs.
Yes, he did.
I mean, that takes courage.
Because he wouldn't take the vaccine.
I mean, how much courage? This is your money.
Yes.
And you will not get your money unless you do what we say, and you can go, cool, take it.
Because
that takes courage.
Because people will say, this is your worth.
There it is.
And he said, no, my worth's in Christ.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. You know, as we had some of our guests come on, Shelley Castaneda really stood out. Because Shelley, you know, if you watch the Lunch Break show and the Muscle Matters show, Shelley was third in command in the Kern County Sheriff's Department. And I think she was all of maybe $115. You know, and she talked about how she, was able to overcome the obstacles at the sheriff's academy. And the person that was cheering her on was her future husband. And that story was resonated to me because she talked about how she gave her all and it wasn't good enough, but they gave her another shot. And she talked about how
Perseverance.
Yes, she talked about how that perseverance got her through. But the thing that I remember was, and I went back to a lot of our shows, and they talked about maybe an experience with the Lord and what they were doing. And Shelley talked about I read my best 40. There was no way I did it and no way I could pass it. And when they told me I passed, I was like, I had divine help with that one. Those are the stuff I love.
Yes. I mean, God protects, and we don't realize once he loves you and once you've dedicated and once you've given up, he protects you, and you have these ideals of what you want to do. I remember getting robbed. And I say the word robbed. I got robbed. The promoter said it over the microphone when the guy that beat me, congratulations, you got lucky.
He was selected above you.
Okay, okay, it's correct verbiage. The guy that was selected above me, actually, the Lord saved me because the coach I had back then, he literally blew out 4 people's hearts. And when he sent me my plan, I remember bucking his plan because I was like, bro, I don't need all that. I don't need to take this much. I don't want to take this much. And we got into an argument out the gate because I was like, no way I'm ingesting. You get this or that. Which one you want? But I had said, if I get that ring to where I can go to the national, I will take everything he told me to take. And once again, the good Lord was like, no, we got other plans for you there.
God always knows what's best.
Because at the time, he was still new in the industry, and his heart blow-ups hadn't been
documented yet.
Yes.
So there's always a trail of them, isn't there?
Yes.
And when you're there, when I was on the a doctor's emergency room table twice, and I had a muscle relaxer injected into my heart because it was trying to catch up with itself. What do they call it? Defibrillation.
Yes.
We didn't have EADs or what is it?
I got shocked back in the health. They did that to me too.
And so, but your drug guy's not there with you.
No.
I had the doctor sitting on my chest going, you're not going to learn from this. And I was like, no, let's give me my blood work because my sodium, potassium's out of balance. That's how.
And that's funny is when I argued with them, I go,
I can fix this.
When I got done and they were like, hey, your heart rate's still up. I go, oh no, I know what that is. My heart rate will be back to normal in 72 hours. I know exactly what that is. That's the blah, 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 blah.
And they look at you like, what?
Yeah. And they go, well, we can't let you go home. I go, no, I'm fine now. You fixed the problem. I'm fine. This will be done in a minute.
And as we have some guests that come on that have taken similar journeys that we've been on, you get to hear those. I'm excited. I've got a couple friends that we're going to have on that did excel in the sport, if you call it excelling, and they did achieve a great success. But then sometimes you have to look at what cost. And I'm not saying it wasn't worth it because that was a personal decision on their part. I mean, I'm going to say that. I mean, I made a lot of bad personal decisions, and I've had to live with them. And
I wouldn't change a thing. But I wish I could go back with the knowledge.
Oh my gosh, what is it? What is it? What was that song where what would the older me tell the younger me?
Yes, if I could go back with the knowledge,
be kind of like that. Back to the Future.
Wouldn't have been in so much trouble.
Back to the Future.
Yes.
I would listen to the older Steve if you came back and saw me.
I'd grab that little boy by the ear and go, here, read this book.
I would listen to that. No, so as we're out there, we're going to bring some people on. They're going to share their journey. But it's part of the journey that's the cool part, because I think the journey is showing you that muscles do matter, and you keep fighting it.
We got a young man that came on that still competes with one arm.
Yes.
I mean,
judo.
BJ.
Huh?
He's a jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And with one arm, I mean, a lot of people get a hangnail and they're done.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to Mike Green the other day, and Michael's doing jiu-jitsu, and he goes, man, I get excited when I beat somebody. I think you shared this on a
Yeah.
show, but they got to go home and tell their wife they got beat by the one-armed judo guy. I was like, oh yeah, it's so as you're out there, we're going to bring you stories similar to this, and hopefully you're going to be able to learn from them, because that's our intent, right, Steve?
Yes.
Is to give knowledge.
I hope, and that's one of the things I like to do. Like, a lot of people ask me why I do what I do. When I talked about the guy who blew up hearts, I want people to understand what they're getting themselves into. I want people to know this is the correct way, that's the wrong way. I really want people to understand there is a smart way and there's a
not smart.
Yes.
And I think, Steve, that we the Bible says that God, in Romans 8:28, God will cause all things to work out for our good. But I think part of our good is talking about where we've been in our journey with fitness.
Isn't it a rough pill to swallow when you realize when it's all said and done, like, oh.
Yes. But I think one of the things we've talked about, God's kept both you and I around to help people.
Yes.
So, Steve, I'm going to ask you this question.
Yes.
I don't think I'm going to put you on the spot in here. How did you come up? Because he's got a very unique way that he helps people. It cost you a pair of shoes. That's what it cost. How'd you come up with that? I don't think I ever asked you that.
Well, originally, I didn't want to do it at all.
Isn't that funny too? Because you've got a great reputation in town for helping people, and you didn't want to do it.
We'll go all the way back to when a friend of mine asked me to be a personal trainer. I wanted no parts of it. No parts of it. I was a dedicated bodybuilder. I had a goal in mind.
Don't mess me up.
I used to wear the shirt that said,
under construction?
No, don't talk to me. I'm lifting. And there was some nice verbiage that went along with it. I wore that shirt, the evil eyes, leave me alone. And I knew that I would have to change to do that. I even tried to go to a different gym away. I ended up being the manager of the gym that I originally tried to go to. And
you've always worked your way to the top.
It was funny. And I remember going to that said gym, and I guess it's okay to say it. It was BX. I didn't want to work at 20. I didn't want to train at 24. That's why I trained at. And I didn't want my personal playground to be messed with, because there's a different beast that goes into that, and I didn't want to be disturbed. And we've talked about that. So I went to Body Exchange, and I remember the GM at that particular time asked me why I didn't work out there. And I told him, your bars aren't big enough to hold the plates. Mm-hmm. And he got mad at me. And I was like, I'm just being truthful. Mm-hmm. Your bars only go up to 5 plates. I'm just warming up by then.
You never went into Planet Fitness.
No, I think the luck alarm would go off.
Yeah, they would say, oh, no, you're not getting in.
No, I love those original commercials. And so fast forward, when I got into the business, I got my nutrition store. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to concentrate over here, and I had a lot of people asking me. And I was like, okay. And I would start writing these plans. And I was doing them for absolutely free. I mean, literally free. I was passing knowledge on for free, because I remember
I think I know where you're going with this.
Being that guy and asking questions, and it not being, the answer was not elaborated. It was just being, blah. I do that, but nobody elaborated. So I would write for free.
You put your heart and soul.
Oh, hours upon hours upon hours, because this is me and I'm learning. And the great thing is it helped me learn. Like,
yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. And then I look at these people and go, hey, how's that plan going? Oh, I didn't do it.
Or you could look at them and see, obviously they're not doing it.
Oh, no, they tell me to my face they didn't do it. Oh, no, Steve, I didn't do it. And I'd be like, and so I had to figure out, I didn't want your money.
Oh, you stayed up at night to figure out how to make it better.
And I didn't want your money, because I don't believe it's worth the cash, but I needed a barter system. And I've always been a sneakerhead, so I had to figure out a barter system.
I'm envious of his sneakers.
I still have my very first pair, and I remember the very first person to buy them for me. And so I still have those pair, and that's my first pair. Yes, it's my first pair.
That's the word.
And I remember getting those, and she followed it to the T. And then the next person.
That a great feeling?
And the one thing I've come to understand, is people don't value free. It's crazy. A plethora of knowledge,
true.
But if it's given free, there is no value whatsoever to it. Like, it's free.
I remember, Steve, there was a reporter for the Orange County Register, which is no longer in existence. And he was an older guy, and he smoked and drank. And I think he was that old newsroom guy, and he wrote an article about the budding industry of fitness and bodybuilding, pumping irons out. So he got to write an article on me. And so I remember one time he kind of followed up with the article, and he goes, hey, so some of that stuff that you were telling me you were doing, I did it. And he goes, it worked. And I go, well, you didn't do all of it because you're 62. But he goes, yeah. He goes, I got a little bigger in my chest. And then I was like, well, that was an experience of he did something from the article he wrote about me, and it worked. And I thought, well, pretty cool. I never followed.
Now, did that introduce you into the writing in the magazines when you were write articles?
No, no, because most people would write it and just lie about it anyways. So I there again. I mean,
I was gonna say, do I blame you for my Twinkies and tuna?
Hey, I remember having a sit down with Joe Weider when he wrote that I had kids, and I go, Joe, I don't have kids. And my ex-wife was not happy about that, and I was like, we don't have kids. He goes, how many people live in Bakersfield? I go, back then probably 280,000. He goes, well, my readership's 7 million, so you have kids. You could lie in the magazine, and most people, my hometown experience was negated.
And you know what? You're making me laugh because I'm thinking about, once again, the reason why I have no problem doing it the way I do it is I think about my first bodybuilding show, my first 6 bodybuilding shows. I look at the diet that I had, which was a perfect diet. And I remember showing it to a friend who was very high up, and him looking at me going, you're eating too much food, and walking away. And I was just like, and my brain went back to the Weider magazines where they would say the guys would eat cans of tuna and get on the stage.
Eat to grow.
And I would
eat coming into a show.
And I just went to eating tuna. My
waters.
Oh my Lord, distilled water. Like, I don't know how I didn't die my first show. 5 small cans of tuna, a green apple, and some water. And the only reason I had a green apple is because a friend of mine goes, hey Steve, you should have a green apple before you work out. And I was like, and I ate that thing to the core.
The seed.
You're core. Don't bother me. I'd bite your head off while I was eating that thing.
The stem disappeared. I love that, Steve. I love that. I love the fact that you have I never thought of that. You have the first pair, and you have the story with the first pair.
Yes.
So as you see those, they're almost like each one is a landmark experience for a human being.
And that's when a lot of people, I've had a lot of people come up to me and go, Steve, you have a different pair of shoes. And I said, each pair of shoes, I'd say about 75% of my shoe collection represents somebody I've helped.
A life.
Yes. And
that has merit, Steve.
Yes.
I love that. I love that about you. You have a lot of unique ideas. And that's what I think when Steve and I came up with the show, and he had talked about how God had inspired him to say, hey, we need to do something. And then God dropped it on mine, because a lot of people, and I am reaching out now to the fitness industry, talking about some friends. That's how I had Doug come in. I've got my friend Victor Richards that we want to bring in, and I'm going to jump into Eddie Robinson. Eddie, if you ever watch, I'd love to get your story. And then Dennis Newman. Yes. I love these guys.
Dennis had a beautiful physique.
Oh my gosh. I was down there. There was the last bodybuilding show I went to in California. And I was there, and we took a picture. All the Mr. California's Flex was there. And Dennis walked on stage. And I was like, this is the reason I got out. Sean Ray's the reason I got out. I saw the Sean Ray train on the tracks. And so, but I'm the underachieving Mr. California. I always tell people that. I did well in national shows, but not the spark. But God had a different journey for me.
Yes.
And I'm really excited about that journey. And as we bring you these guests, we're hoping each one may deposit something in you. An inspiration. I love the fact that this man came up with a genius show for us. It's called Cash or Trash. And we actually go through a list of, maybe workouts or trending things. And we're going to cash them or trash them, and hopefully you enjoy it. This is our opinion. That we've got it. Steve, you're opinionated.
I openly admit it.
And I am too. I've been accused of that. And so we're going to be able to give you our opinion, talk about it. I just love doing the show with him. So there again.
And let's interject. It's our opinion. And if you have an opposite opinion,
tell us.
We would love to see it in the comment sections. That's for sure, for sure.
And we're not, we got thick skin. We used to stand on with bathing suit briefs and let men judge us. I mean, it was funny. There was no women judges back when I was competing for a long time. It was just men, and that was a good thing and a bad thing. But I'm just saying,
Polaroid cameras. Hey, can I take a Polaroid picture of you?
yeah, it's funny because you got thick skin quickly, didn't you? There was nothing to hide. I'm telling you that, nothing to hide. So it's funny because you leave those comments there. I'll just leave that there. I might get some issues. Hey, love you guys. Steve, tell them where your shop's at.
Well, I'm located at 7420 District Boulevard. That's District and Boulevard, right across the street from Nestle Ice Cream. Everybody's familiar with Nestle. It's right off District, very close to the Gosford Highway. Be sure to come by. We would love to see you and love to help you out.
If you're heading down District Boulevard and you're heading east, when you get to Nestle's, turn left.
Yes.
And you're there. Hey, Steve, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it. Tuesdays at
12 o'clock, noon. High noon.
Yep. Hey, there again, go out and subscribe. Go out there and like, share. Hey, there again, I think you're going to enjoy our shorts too, because this is one funny guy. I'm telling you that.
Funny looking.
Funny and humor. Hey, and he can dance. I can't dance. God bless.